Good morning, everyone. Sorry, got a little bit of disturbance. Good morning, everybody. I think we've got a bit of a blue.
No, it's one of these on the side.
Okay, third time lucky. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Health and Wellbeing Board. So I'm Belinda Seston, Vice Chairman of the Health and Wellbeing Board, and I'll be chairing this meeting in the absence of Councillor Graham Bridgman. Thank you. So before we start, for the benefit of the members of the public who may be watching, that today's meeting is being held in hybrid format. We have a quorum of board members in the council chamber, and I am joined this morning by councillors Lynn Doherty, Rick Jones and Martha Vickers, and also by Jessica Jundu Evans, Sean Murphy, Steve Welch and Gail Muirhead. So other board members and substitutes attending remotely include councillors Dominic Burke, Steve Masters and Joe Stewart, as well as Superintendent Zaid Aziz, Ben Blease, Matthew Hensby, Andy Sharp and Andrew Statham. Andy. Lovely, okay. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Joel Malumba and Pooja Patel from Healthy Dialogues, Sarah Shildrake from the Berkshire West Public Health Team, Camille Bayer and Kathy Griffiths from the Corn Exchange. So the meeting is being live streamed via YouTube so that members of the public are able to follow the proceedings. So Gordon Oliver is the clerk for the meeting this morning and Tom Dunn is the Zoom host. So please note that only board members who are in the council chamber can take part in the voting. However, prior to any formal vote, there will be an indicative vote amongst all board members, including those attending remotely, to give an indication of those in the room as to the views of the total membership. So finally, before we get to the agenda, I just need to advise everyone that there will be a test of the fire and lockdown alarms at 10 o'clock, so we'll need to halt proceedings. And I also want to keep us quite strictly to time. I'm conscious that people have a meeting straight after this one and they need to travel to the site to attend that. So, moving on in terms of the agenda, we can go to item 1. Gordon, have we received any apologies?
Yes, Chairman, we've had apologies from Councillor Graham Bridgman and Councillor Rick Jones is substituting, from Professor Tracy Dashkowitz and Dr. Janet Lippett and Andrew Statham is substituting, and from Helen Williamson.
Thank you very much. So item 2, minutes of the last meeting, which was held Thursday, the 21st of July, 2022, and unfortunately I couldn't make that meeting. So I recall that Councillor Bridgman has asked for the, in terms of the minutes, for the chairman to be identified in the minutes and for clarification when we report on the minutes as to who was present in the chamber and who was attending remotely. So that's one change that we need to take forward. Are there any further changes? I can see that Councillor Vickers has her hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to, this is sort of matters arising really. The second paragraph, it refers to question, which was me that asked the question, about the programme of first aid training to schools. This was related to rollout of defibrillators across the district, and that this would be brought to the September meeting. Well, it's obviously not on the agenda. I mean, probably it's quite a full agenda, but it's not referred to anywhere. And I'd just like a comment on that, please, about, I assume it'll go to the next agenda. Good question. Gordon, would you like to respond?
Yes, apologies, Councillor Vickers, that's my oversight. So I'll have a word with the public health team after this and just sort of arrange something.
So are there any further questions or changes, or are members happy to approve the minutes as a correct record of the meeting held? So, so we need to have a proposer. Do I have a proposer for the minutes? Thank you. And a seconder. Thank you. So I think we need to have a vote on this as well. So if everybody is happy with that, if you can show if you are against or abstaining, that would probably be the easiest way to record.
If you do for 4.
We'll do it for.
All those who were at the meeting.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, and then I believe I need to sign those minutes. So, item 3, moving on, actions arising. So I believe I take you through these. So there are 3 particular actions of comment. One is action 153. So that's for Steve. Confirm that Steve Welch is happy to progress the peer review from support with Councillor Bridgman and Gordon Oliver. Yep.
Yep.
Excellent. Is there a timescale for that, Steve?
Not yet, so I'll pick it up with Councillor Bridgman and we'll progress from there.
Lovely, thank you. And then action 191, the feedback on responses to the Healthwatch CAMS report to be provided to the board at the December meeting. Okay, and action 197, this will progress through the place-based partnerships. And all other actions, I understand, are complete. Are there any further comments? Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. 198, which says look at incorporating information on defibrillators into planned water safety events. I'm wondering whether, and I don't know the name of these gadgets, but I think it's not defibrillated, but it's the new boxes at the side of the canal that one uses, and I don't know what they're called, if people are in trouble in the water. They've recently been installed, but there are no defibrillators at the side of the canal, because it's not that I'm aware of. Defibrillators tend to be in, the centres of population, edges of buildings and things. So I'm wondering whether that could be clarified. It's probably going to be Sean. And the other point I was going to make in relation to the Water Safety Partnership, at a recent meeting of the Canal Corridor Working Group, which is a town council initiative, there was a lot of concern expressed about the excessive feeding of swans on the canal, the numbers of swans, and the dangers to the public that they are now creating, as well as a danger to health. They're increasing the amount of bread that goes into the water, it's increasing rats. There's a danger of people going into the water because of the swans coming on and sort of engaging with the public. They actually come onto the bank. And there's been complaints from businesses along the side of the canal, particularly the Waterside Cafe, that they're actually coming into the cafe sometimes. So there needs to be, it sounds as though it's appropriate for the Water Safety Partnership to look at that from a health and safety point of view. And hopefully, I think there were officers from this, from the council at that particular meeting, but I'm not quite sure who's on the Water Safety Partnership from the canal. Possibly it's Sean, and maybe that could be raised at the next meeting.
Sean?
Yes, Chair. Just on the first point, so the installation of defibrillators to coincide with the water safety equipment that's already there, that is actually the thing that's being explored now, about whether effectively defibrillators can be incorporated in the existing. So I'll take that back. And the second point, I'll just take back to the Water Safety Partnership.
We need to be on mics.
Now you're asking. Yeah.
When you see a box with
Yeah.
numbers, you think, although it's simple, it's quite good to know immediately what to do in a crisis, just like defibrillators. But thank you.
Okay.
So thank you, Councillor Vickers. So Sean will take back those actions, so we need to just update the action log. Gail?
Yep, I can answer those questions. So those are throw lines. They're throw lines in the cabinets. Yes, yep. And we did have an event in the summer where we did practice with the public, and we're more than happy to do that again as a fire service. So you're welcome.
Councillor Burke?
Can I ask members who are in the chamber and speaking use their mics, because we can't hear remotely.
Thank you for the reminder. Thank you. Okay, so moving on from the action log, we move to item 4, declarations of interest. So members, are there any declarations of interest relating to the items in the agenda that we need to be aware of? Okay. I can't see any hands, so we take that as no. So now we're going to move on to item 5, and we have members of the public are asked to submit formal questions to members of the Health and Wellbeing Board. And we have received a question from Mr. Richard Westall, and Mr. Westall is going to be joining us remotely to hear the answers to his question. So we need to ask, so Tom, if you
apologies, Chair, Mr. Westall hasn't actually joined us on Zoom.
Okay.
So I won't be able to bring him in.
Okay, what's your suggestion?
So if we still go through the questions, read out the answer, and he'll be provided with a written answer after the meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that. So I'll still go through. I'll still read out. No, okay. So we'll provide a written response as the member of the public isn't here for this particular item. So moving on in terms of the agenda, we now come to item 6. So Gordon, are there any petitions that have been submitted to the Health and Wellbeing Board?
I can confirm we haven't received any petitions, Chairman.
Thank you for confirming that. So item 7, Health and Wellbeing Board membership. So membership of the Health and Wellbeing Board is on an organisational basis. But we have standing agenda to note any changes in personnel. So just want to highlight that the changes since the last meeting include Steve Welch, who joins us as the new Service Director for Communities and Wellbeing. So welcome, Steve. Bernadine Blease replaces Reva Stewart as the Berkshire Healthcare Foundation Trust representative, and I know that Bernadine is joining us remotely, so welcome, Ben. And Helen Williamson has been nominated as the substitute. So members, please note these changes. So moving on to item 8. Do we have Zakia? Yes, we have Zakia who's joined us online. So Zakia, if you can please present the item. I understand that Dr. Joel Mulumbai and Pooja Patel from Healthy Dialogues are also available to answer questions as they have helped author the pharmaceutical needs assessment. So
thank you.
Zakia, over to your good self.
Thank you, Belinda, and thank you for reassuring me that they're also on the call because I couldn't quite see them. Members and officers will have, this is the 3rd presentation of the Pharmaceutical Health Needs Assessment, and is really important because the going live for the needs assessments will be early October. So from the last meeting, members will recall that we have gone through a consultation, and the consultation responses have been responded to. The report that we've written is really as given. So I think it's really important that we ask any questions for clarifications at this point rather than go through the details of the report in the meeting. People have heard that the pharmaceutical needs assessment is a statutory response. It has been deferred whilst we were going through COVID, but it's really essential that the pharmaceutical needs are published and are responded to by the Health and Wellbeing Board for authorisation and endorsement. So could I perhaps ask if there are any points for clarification that the team and I could respond to?
Any points or comments that members would like to raise? No, I can't see any hands.
I think in that case, really to thank the team at Healthy Dialogues for a really detailed and exceptional piece of work with quite broad consultation. I think we have a very clear view of what the pharmaceutical needs have been in the local area, and issues have been raised and responded to. So I would ask that the Health and Wellbeing Board endorse and authorise that this is the pharmaceutical needs assessment that will be going live from October.
So thank you, Sakir. So we need to put this to the vote. Can I have a proposer?
Just need to do an informal vote.
Oh, okay. No, right. So I'll do the informal vote first. So is everybody in agreement? I'm looking around the room. I'm looking on the screen. Can see nodding. So so we have that, and then let's go for, I need a proposer. Thank you, Councillor Doherty, and a seconder. Thank you, Richard, thank you. So, so we can now approve the pharmaceutical needs assessment, and thank you very much, Zakir and your team for this piece of work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's do a formal vote in the room. So
okay.
Just for formality.
Okay. Yeah. So a formal vote in the room as well, please. Is everybody in agreement? Those that can vote. So thank you. We have that as well. So thank you for that clarification. Okay. So moving on to item 9, which is the West Berkshire JSNA. So I think Sarah Sheldrick, who should be on the call, is going to present this item. I'm just looking for Sarah.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Sorry, couldn't spot you there. So you're going to take us through this item, and I believe you might even give us a little demonstration.
That's right. Yes, I will do that as well. Yeah. So. Thank you. So yes, I'm here today to talk to you about the recent work done on the West Berkshire JSNA. So in the background paper, there are 2 key items for discussion. But to put these into context, I'd really like to take the opportunity to take you through the newly enhanced site. So I'll just get that up on the screen now for you. There we go. So hopefully that's showing for everybody. So before I take you through this site, I just wanted to explain a bit about the background to the observatory. So it's built around a service that's provided by Esri UK, who did the initial site development and who host and support the site. And what they provide is an off-the-shelf product based on their national data service. So this is a service which automatically draws down data from several organisations such as the ONS, and that data service underpins much of the interactive content that you will find on the site. So obviously the key benefit to this is it provides that core JSNA data set without the need to manually update the data. So with that in mind, I'll just take you through briefly some of the key features on the site. So firstly, when you arrive at the home page on the site, you will see there are some kind of pre-populated reports that you're able to select here. So I'll just go into the first one, which is around population and demographics, and that's just loading up for us now. So firstly, you'll see that the census data from 2021 that's currently available, the first release, is showing within this report. And each report is structured in a very similar way, showing tables, infographics, and charts around the key themes. So the default view for all of these reports will be at a local authority level. So this is data for West Berkshire you're seeing on the screen at the moment. But you can easily change that. So by clicking on the reports button, you can then choose to see data around that topic for wards, or even LSOAs as well, so very small neighbourhood geographies. And for all of these different charts and images, you can export the data in one of two ways. So you can either use the camera icon here, which will export charts as images, or you can use the tab here to download the data as a CSV or spreadsheet. You can choose the map option to see the data within that theme on a map. And there's various ways to display it, but the quintiles tend to work best. So also on the home page, you may have noticed that there's a map here, which is just loading, and this allows you to get a quick kind of ward profile. So there's two ways to navigate to these. You can select your ward on the map, or if you have a postcode to put in, if you're not sure where that postcode is located, you can type that into the search function. That will then bring up the data for that relevant ward. And this produces an overview report across all the themes about that area. So the reports I've just shown are a very useful kind of first stop when you first visit the site to kind of start to understand the kinds of data that are in there and to give that nice overview of an area. You can also explore the data further by going to the Data Explorer here. And again, there's two ways to find information in here. If you know what you're looking for, perhaps you've seen data somewhere else within the site, then you can use the search function here. And typing any word into that box will return any data with that either in the title or the description. The other way is to use a filter, and this is useful if you're not quite sure the exact indicator that you're looking for, because this allows you to browse for the data. So again, I can look for crime, police data, perhaps rolling rates. And then you can choose some other filters here. So I'm going to click on LSOA because I only want to see data that's available at that level. And applying that will return the relevant indicators. I'll just click on the top one there just to show you these 5 tabs that will then show. So the metadata is the important information about that indicator, where it comes from, when it was last updated, any kind of key caveats around it. The data tab presents the data in a table view, and throughout all of these options, you can adjust the level of geography you want to see, you can download the data, and you can apply some filters to the data here. Again, you can see that indicator more visually on a map. So that will bring that through there. The time series will show you how that indicator has changed over time. So for this one, I'm just going to select local authority. It's quite busy on the chart there. So as the Observatory was originally developed for the 6 Berkshire authorities, when you look at local authority data, the 6 local authorities in Berkshire appear. You can choose to filter out if you're only interested in a subset. So for example, just selecting the local authorities in Berkshire West there. Finally, in the Explorer, you have a ranked bar chart, which is useful for comparing areas. So for example, if I click onto a ward view now, I can see how those crime rates are distributed across the wards within West Berkshire. The final section in this data toolbox I'll touch on very briefly. So this is a custom area reporter, and if you need to use it, it's really, really useful. But there might not be that many examples of when people will need to do so. But basically, you can build up your own custom areas using different building blocks, so wards or LSOAs. And this allows you to, on the map here, to select
and build up your own aggregate custom geography. And then by clicking on any of these reports here, I'll be able to see a report that's built around that aggregate area. So that's useful if you want to build up your own geographies. So what the features I've just shown you have been available in the site in one form or another since it was built. The next features are new, and these aim to bring more local information together onto the platform. So the first two I'll highlight are the COVID-19 recovery report and these JSNA summary reports. So these have been built using a custom report builder that utilises that data that sits within the Esri National Data Service. And what we've aimed to do here is to bring into that, alongside that data, some more descriptive kind of text around the information. So we haven't reinvented the wheel here. We've taken data from various assessments and strategies that are already in existence. And what we've done is presented that information alongside the power of the data that we have in the tool. So, for example, this is looking at the environment. So text has come in from the environment strategy, and the data presented alongside it will automatically update as per any of the other data in the site. So we don't have to go in and do anything manual to that data. Obviously, the text is a little bit more static. Similarly, there's a people summary, which brings in themes from the health and wellbeing strategy and presents that alongside the data within the tool. The features to the right here are mainly support features. So there's a section around news, so people can be updated about what's new to the site. There's an option for users to submit their views and feedback. And then there's a support section here with about an FAQ. There's some video guides which take people through the features I've just described to you this morning. And then a data user guide, which is more about how to interpret the data, the kinds of questions you want to ask of the data before drawing conclusions. So finally on here, we have the needs assessments and further resources section. So this is the section that we really want to start to build on now, bringing more and more information in and making it as widely accessible as possible. So you can see we've started to bring some new needs assessments into the site, but we want this to grow and grow and bring a wider range of information in. So that probably brings me on to the two proposals outlined in the paper. So hopefully you can agree that we have a great site here, but now we really need to do two things for two things to happen. So the first is to ensure that people are using the site and can see where it sits within the JSNA. And the second is to really build up the local resources and needs assessment page. So, so we really want this to be able to fully evidence our assessments of need around the local population and ensure that a wide as possible audience can benefit from the work that goes into building up some of these assessments, which can be used beyond the purpose they were originally intended for. So we're proposing to do this through the identification of JSNA super users or champions, and these people will promote the site and support others to use it. And we're also proposing to form a West Berkshire JSNA specific steering group to ensure that all the needs assessment work that's conducted across partner organisations is integrated as part of the JSNA and ultimately is published on the site here. So yes, that's the purpose of bringing this today, is to show you the site and ask the board to approve these two tasks as the next steps for JSNA in West Berkshire, sorry.
Thank you, Sarah. Fantastic demonstration, lots of capability there, really exciting about, how we can use this going forward. So I'm going to ask members if they'd like to comment. So Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Sarah. Really good presentation. I'm a bit of a data nerd, and actually, I think this is great. I think it's great that we've actually got one place to bring everything together in. For me, what's going to be really key is the interpretation and use of. So I'm fully supportive of the recommendations. I think it's a really good report. It's exactly what we should be doing. I'm very happy to support.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bowick.
Thank you, Belinda, and thank you, Sarah. It's a great presentation. I'm very impressed. My observation is that wards are not homogeneous. Every ward is different from one another, and within the wards there's huge variation. So I represent Aldermaston Ward, and in Aldermaston Village, people are pretty well off, but there are pockets of deprivation. It's really difficult sometimes, especially for people who don't have local knowledge, to identify those people who are in the most need. And my question is, are the super users going to be able to help me drill down, or is that another level of development that we need?
Over to you, Sarah.
Yes, so I think that's to a certain extent, that's definitely what the aim of the super users or champions would be. It would be to help other users to really dig into the data that's contained within the site, and also not just the features that are provided through the data service, but as we bring more of our own local assessments online, it would be helping people to use that as well. So for example, at the moment, we're looking at developing more products around inequalities, and that is something that ultimately will be published on the site, and those super users will be able to guide people through using those as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments, reflections? Oh, sorry, Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to join everyone else saying, it's a superb presentation. It's a fantastic tool. I think this is one of the first things I've ever seen where it actually gives the Health and Wellbeing Board in its entirety a really easy to use tool for every single member, whether it's ourselves, the Corn Exchange, councillors, health. I mean, I thought I hadn't seen it before, but the fabulous bit with you can pick your own geography is a superb thing for primary care networks, for GP practices, for district nurses who are, and things like social care, which is geography based rather than specifically ward based. So what I'd like to see the Health and Wellbeing Board do is not only sort of endorse this, but potentially really get behind ensuring every single member partner understands how to use it and uses it and evangelizes it, because we're so used to sort of JSNA being a large dusty document that gets looked at every 5 years. And I hold my hand up and say I don't refer to it on a monthly basis, whereas this brings it all to life. So this is honestly, this is the local integration boards, etc., should all really grab hold of this and say, what can it tell us? And for the first time ever, we can really start targeting help, the right kind of help. And if we involve all the partners, and I do mean all partners, planning, police, fire, everyone who's involved in health and well-being in its broadest terms, I think we're onto a winner. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Sort of back to a ward level, actually, and Sarah actually shared, she popped over the adult social care, antisocial behaviour aspect and the stats that are there, and that's something that I'm currently looking at locally, because social media is a wonderful thing. However, you only tend to see the worst cases, the concerns, the fears, and actually having some stats to either confirm or refute where there are issues can be really useful. I have to say, I have not used the Observatory, and I feel like I've been locked in a cupboard somewhere with a blanket over my head, and I didn't know it was there. So I'm going to be all over this. And what it will do is it will help me, again, as Andrew was saying, I'm in Tilehurst. Well, Tilehurst is a huge area, and actually we've got Reading Borough Council as well. So if we've got issues, it isn't just in my ward, it's across 2 authorities as well as several wards. So it looks like it's going to be really, really useful. And I haven't even touched on what I can do with it for adult social care. So there's my weekend sorted.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Vickers.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I also was not aware of this, and I must say data and statistics often sort of leave me cold, but even I can see the benefit of this. It seems very relevant to what the council and what we're all doing. It would be good if all councillors, as Andrew has just said, everybody, not just health and wellbeing, should be made aware of this. So if we could sort of roll this out, or maybe have a special session for councillors, or in some way make sure, because with the next item, I think, it could help with that, identifying needs, identifying what's happening in your ward. So I think all our councillors need to be aware of that, and everybody working in the community really, but particularly our councillors.
Thank you. Heike?
I'm Heike Veltman. I'm the second or the third, fourth in agreement with what everybody has said. So I'm a GP by day job, and I see a great value in what we can tie in with this and the business intelligence that is available from a primary care, secondary care community already, especially thinking, some of the items on here, we're talking about heating this winter, the effect of finding those people and supporting them, the knock-on effects of health, the risks that we're facing. So yeah, I welcome it as everyone else does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, reflections? If not, let's go to the indicative vote. So are all members in agreement to the recommendations set out, which are to note the developments and for the board to endorse the proposal of the formation of a West Berkshire JSNA steering group supported by JSNA super users. Oh, okay, sorry, I've got it the wrong way round. So let's go for proposer, thank you, and seconder. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Vickers. So, and now let's go for the indicative vote. So show of hands, please, for all of those in support, looking around the room, full support, looking on the camera. Have I got full support from members? Yes, I do. So thank you so much, Sarah, for taking us through this. Lots of positive and constructive feedback as to how to take forward and embed into our strategic intentions and working lives. So thank you so much for that. So moving. So can we just do the formal vote in the room? Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. And finally, formal vote in the room as well for members. So do I have members' agreement? Yes, we do. So thank you so much. So moving on, we are moving to item 10, which is the item around the rising costs of living impacts. So Sean Murphy, Public Protection Manager. Sean, you're going to introduce the item, is that correct? So over to your good self.
Thank you, Chair. I don't intend to go through the paper in detail. It is broken down into effectively 4 sections, so it gives a bit of background, and that background, when we were writing the paper, was probably updated every day, it felt, and even since the paper was written, some of this is out of date. Talks a little bit about the potential implications and the existing mitigations as well that are in place. So obviously there are a number of services that are provided within the council itself, but also by the council statutory partners and also the voluntary sector that provide mitigations to some of the issues set out in the implications. The report then goes on to propose a way forward in terms of basically a subgroup of this board. So really just to say that since the report was written, we have had further meetings with I've had further meetings with the voluntary sector. There is a lot of work now going on to scope out the voluntary sector provision, and all of that is being pulled together into a kind of coherent package that we will be able to signpost to in due course. The paper also talks at, I think, section 515 about the proposal to set up a cost of living hub. And I think the leader has got more information on that, if I may.
Councillor Doherty, yes.
Thank you all. No, thanks Sean for the paper, and as Sean says, this has been a continually updating situation, and we've been doing quite a lot of work outside of this arena. And in fact, the Chief Executive and I were at a meeting on Friday with all South East leaders looking at what the response is. So the paper's comprehensive. Sean and I keep picking up different bits around what could be additional. So looking particularly around public health, some of the welfare support packages and everything else. But what I am pleased to say is that we can confirm that we will be using the same model that we've used previously, working with our partners Greenham Trust and the Volunteer Centre West Berkshire to form the cost of living hub model. It's the same model that you'll see took us through Homes for Ukraine. It's the same model that we used through the COVID period. So we've agreed to a formal sort of partnership where we'll pull together to try to make sure that we've got a cohesive response across the district, because we recognise this is going to impact on residents, businesses, staff, everybody. And there's many different strands. And I think Sean's paper does a really good job at pulling those out, because when you talk about it, you don't always think, actually, let's look at housing and let's look at what partnerships we're going to need to have with some of our housing partners, what conversations we're going to have there. So I think it's really good that we've got that hub model in place again. And it's something Sean and I have spent a lot of time talking about. The only thing I picked up on this paper, and I have said to Sean, and I think he's in agreement with me, I wasn't happy that we waited to the next Health and Wellbeing Board to actually come back to this formally. I think if we're going to have the steering group on it, it needs to be empowered from day one to take some of the decisions. I don't want to have to keep waiting to come back to a formal Health and Wellbeing Board, because this situation is going to change at quite a rapid pace. So a kind of how would we do it in terms of the council? We would sort of devolve decision-making rights to that steering group to be able to work on our behalf in the interim, because I think to wait for the next meeting really wouldn't be appropriate. There's going to have to be sort of decisions made on a day-to-day basis. And I think the security around those decision-making ones is that hub model involving, as I said, Greenham Trust and the Volunteer Centre. So I think they'll be able to encapsulate all of that work together.
Thank you, Councillor Doherty. That's excellent news. And we do need to think about that, how as a board we remain agile to changing needs. So I'm not sure if we need to take a vote on that. Gordon. Right, okay, so let's go to Councillor Vickers first of all.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's we're living in pretty desperate times, and it's good to see the council trying to get to grips with this, what's going to probably become a worsening situation. And it's good to hear the urgency in the leader's voice that we need to take action here. I'm happy to obviously just talk about volunteering for a subgroup. I'm happy to volunteer for that. I don't know whether we're coming on to do that later. I mean, my concern is how we get messages out to the people who are meeting with the vulnerable in our community, that what is available for them. I think the cost of living hub is a good centre, but you need people to have the knowledge to maybe come to the hub, or the knowledge of what's out there, because we have in the paper that there's grants for those in cold homes. There's smaller initiatives such as the Draft Busters that's just started, which is looking for volunteers. So there's so much information out there. Councillor Masters, who's got his hand up here, who'll probably tell you a bit more about a meeting he organised, which brought together a lot of volunteers in the community. It was a really good meeting, who have a lot of expertise, but capturing all of that and also educating people in everything that's out there is important. His meeting was about warm spaces, but I'll leave him to tell you a bit more about that when he has a chance. And this is mainly you know, this is trying to cover a lot of things. And as Councillor Doherty says, the situation is changing. But my particular concern is that we get the information to practitioners. And I think there are organisations that will educate people in how to give information about cost of living crisis, etc. And I think I met one called Community. I won't go into the details, but I think the council needs to use the expertise that's out there, not feel it's all up to them, but there's lots of expertise out there to educate their practitioners, the health visitors, the social workers, the housing advisors, everybody. You know, they meet people and they immediately know what information can I give that person? What can I do immediately? And if we're going to have any hubs, warm space hubs, we need practitioners in there, volunteers to be talking to people, all the existing places we have where vulnerable people go, about what they can do, practical things, as well as benefits in their own homes. And I see there's another meeting of more information the next meeting, but as Councillor Doherty says, we need things to happen now. So knowledge about the food bank, all those sorts of things. It's such a big issue, but hopefully the council is going to do its best to coordinate everything.
Thank you, Councillor Vickers. I know, Councillor Doherty, you'd like to come in on this point.
I just might as well come straight back to that point. I mean, when we did the hub model throughout COVID, I think we had around 95 voluntary groups and 3,000 volunteers that we coordinated across. So, of course, communication will be absolutely key, and we're well versed at doing that. So we already have a central site on our website where we're trying to pull all of that information into one place, and we'll be actively promoting that to all organisations, all partners here, so that they know what is going on and where to go to. We also have our e-bulletin, so the e-bulletin will be absolutely key. What Sean and I haven't had the opportunity to do yet is when we did the Homes for Ukraine model, we did an e-bulletin specifically for those people that were registered on that site. So what we're still having the conversation around is whether we have an e-bulletin for everyone, or whether do we have one particularly focused around encouraging those directly working with people to sign up to, and their ongoing conversations. But I'm absolutely confident that because we've used it before, we've done it before, we'll be able to do it again. And it's just a case of deciding which is the best route with regards to the e-bulletin, because residents are interested too. And one of the things I'm quite keen to do, and I think it's not picked up on the paper so much, is we need to be able to, as we always have, help people to help themselves. So what practical measures, what hints and tips can we actually look to do to enable people as well as helping people? Because I think that's really important, that we empower people to help themselves. So we're looking at that communication route, but absolutely take your point around the communication lines, and have no concerns that we will be able to manage that. And in fact, I'm doing some communications later today as part and parcel of that. We did start at the start of September. However, we have had the 10-day period of mourning whereby all communications are muted during that period. But we are looking at that as the number one priority for the comms team over the coming months. So we will be making sure we take that on.
Thank you, Councillor Doherty, for that reassurance and comprehensive response. Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Sean, for that comprehensive report. I know you and I have spoken on a number of occasions in the last few weeks on this subject, and I thank you for attending my meeting that Councillor Vickers spoke of a few months ago. I won't, repeat what Councillor Vickers said, but other than warm spaces are a concern that many people across the district have come to me about, hence the meeting. There's obviously a lot of issues, many of them pertaining to health and well-being. One of the concerns that I have is how we reach people across the community who are not necessarily plugged into the council's communications channels. They're not necessarily normally engaged with services across West Berkshire, and they may be digitally isolated from communities that may be socially excluded, ethnically diverse, for example. And we need to be able to reach them. And there's many people out there who aren't hearing what the council is doing, let alone knowing how to do that. So a lot of the groups who came to the meeting last week are engaging and we're on looking at how we can reach the people who, excuse me, who aren't necessarily in the sphere of communications. And if I can ask the Health and Well through you, Chair, as a council, what is West Berkshire doing to secure additional funding? As Councillor Vickers alluded, this crisis has been growing. It's something that we've known about for some time in terms of fuel, the fuel cap and the rising costs of living. But with the turmoil of the last 7 days or so, things appear to be potentially getting even worse in terms of people potentially losing houses because of increased mortgage payments, etc. So there's a sea change that's happened in the last week since we've been talking about this paper. What is the council doing to lobby the government? And I know Councillor Doherty has links at a very high level as council leader. On a ministerial level, what conversations are being had, and how are we securing funding for critical services, because we have the added complexity of council services being potentially overspending because of the inflation rates and everything else. So there's going to be lots of belt tightening potentially. What mitigations are in place, or conversations are going around those at a ministerial level? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So two good challenges for the Health and Wellbeing Board. One is around, how do we reach the hard to reach groups that we do talk about. Maybe the JSA can support, but I will probably leave that action in the very capable hands of Sean. And then Councillor Doherty, I don't know whether you'd like to come in on the question about funding.
Absolutely, no problem at all. I think everybody is aware of the pressures on public services at the moment. We are very fortunate that we do have the household support grant. So I think that's another £695 just come in so that we can do those really critical interventions. So that's been really good, and we welcome the energy price cap that's been introduced and some of the measures that we've been seeing coming through. So they are very welcome. We did have this conversation. I am chairman of the South East Strategic Leaders, and one of the things that we took as an action and have agreed to do is there's a letter going in my name and everybody in the South East directly into the department to ask for, and we're going to actually ask if our MPs are willing to be signatories as well, to ask for them to look around, particularly around the adult social care side of things, because I think that's where there's going to be a huge amount of pressure. So there is a letter currently winging its way in. I have actually also written to welcome our new Prime Minister and ask for a meeting directly with her. I don't suppose by any stretch of the imagination I will be top of her list of priorities at the moment, but I am trying. And I sit on the People and Places Board for the LGA, and we're working really hard through the LGA to make sure that central government are very aware of the pressures that local government are under. So there is a lot of lobbying going on, and I'm sure myself and many of my colleagues might have further opportunities over the next few days. But we are very, very clear that we need additional funding into local government. However, I'm sat next to colleagues from all statutory services that will be saying exactly the same. So what we need to do as well is not just say we want more, but look at what proactive solutions we can put in place as a partnership. How can we work best together? How can we ensure that our money is working hardest for our residents across the piece, so from all statutory partners? I think we need to have those conversations around where we prioritise going forward. There are going to be difficult decisions ahead. I've been really clear on that. We will continue to press all the levers that we possibly can to make sure that local government is heard.
Thank you, Councillor Doherty. Comprehensive response, and it does tell us, we really do need to think about partnerships, don't we, at this time. Andrew. Sorry, Rick. Yep. Do you want to? Should we take you first, Rick, and then we'll come to Andrew?
Fine, thank you. I'd just like to endorse the leader's comments, particularly, and the report recommendations. I think it is urgent. We can't use the formality of Health and Wellbeing Board meetings to address this. So it's important for the Health and Wellbeing Board, I think, to delegate that day-to-day responsibility to a group that can actually handle it as the situation changes rapidly. So I endorse that recommendation strongly. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the formal vote on that matter shortly. Thank you for your endorsement. Andrew, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for all the comments. They've been really helpful. I really want to both emphasize the urgency of this and also make sure we don't miss those real practical steps. You know, we had a superb response to COVID-19, not only from statutory services, but absolutely most importantly from the community. I get the impression, honestly, this is almost as important and as serious, because the great thing the community volunteers did was they got to the people that the services didn't know about, or not all of them, but they did an awful lot of them. So we need to somehow re-engage the voluntary sector, the local parish councils, etc., who can actually help. This is not about West Berkshire Council doing this on its own. And actually, from a health perspective, you know, I would also now urge the ICS and ICB to take a really quick look at this and say, oh, you know, we've got a 5-year plan, we want to build a new hospital, etc. Well, actually, in the short term, you know, we need to know, how are people going to get to appointments where we're utilizing capacity around. So I had an appointment in Bracknell. It was the only place that could do it. I've got an appointment in Henley, the only place that can do it. Now, I'm in the fortunate position I can get there. But if this is a West Berkshire resident without transport, they're going to not be able to get there. They're either not going to be able to afford to get there or just physically not be able to get there. So I think health needs to look at this terrible situation where it's trying to maximize the facilities it has wherever they may be, but actually double that back with, how can we ensure that the did not attend rate skyrockets as people just can't physically get there or pay to get there. The dreaded HC1 form for getting free prescriptions, which should have been scrapped years ago, which is 16 to 17 pages long. We need to see whether or not Thames Valley Pharmacy, working with the ICS, can short circuit that, because what is the point in people going who may not be able to get free prescriptions to then not get the medication that's going to stop them? So we've got a potential health snowball here, and I think it's as serious as COVID. So I'd love to see the same sort of level of response as we got to COVID, where we had bi-weekly meetings of relevant partners and people being called in as it affects their particular service or something like that. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the challenge back over to health services. You know, there's a number of us in this meeting today, and we need to take that challenge back into our organisations. So thank you for that. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. Just a couple of points that I wanted to follow up on. I agree with Councillor Masters. I think one of the biggest issues that we've always had is about reaching the harder to reach groups. I'm pleased to see that the report actually does recognise that. So under communications, it talks about how we can get something, so not always relying on the digital channels that we have to get to people, but we do recognise as a council that we also need to work on other ways. And I can see it talks about a flyer, but also using some of our social prescribers and other partners, which I think is absolutely essential. I think also as ward members, we absolutely know where our harder to reach people are, and so we should also be able to take that on board. And the other thing was Councillor Doherty saying about, you know, having opportunities. I've got an opportunity on Tuesday afternoon. I'm joining a conference session with other adult social care leaders, where we will absolutely be talking about the issues and the pressures that we're facing now, let alone what we might be facing in future once the reforms come through. So I think, you know, all good opportunities. it always worries me that there's a lot of talking and actually what can we do and actually do something about it. It's great that we all agree there's an issue, but how can we actually do something about it? And then my final point actually was just to recognise as well that as part of the Mental Health Action Group, which is obviously one of the subgroups of Health and Wellbeing Board, Adrian Barker and Rachel Johnson and other members, unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, actually had a finance and mental health event, because before the cost of living crisis really came to the fore, we were already looking at what challenges do people have where they have mental health issues, what could be the causes or even the symptoms. And finance was one of them. So I believe we're due to bring a report back into Health and Wellbeing Board in February, but I wonder whether we might also be able to speed that up. And I'm speaking on behalf of Adrian, so I apologise because he's not here. But I wonder if we could bring something in the interim back into the December meeting, because as Councillor Doherty says, this absolutely cannot wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. I think, Gordon, if you can make a note of that for the forward plan. Sean.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered if I could just respond to 2 or 3 of those points, because there are some themes that are running through them. So just going back to the point that Andrew made about the excellent response, I think, to the COVID situation and the way all of that worked together with the local authority, statutory partners, the voluntary sector. I just want to really reassure him that obviously everything in that response, the good aspects of that were all learned, those lessons. They were then taken into the response to the Homes for Ukraine work, and they will be taken from there into the response to this. And I think the point you make is a really important one. The second point about communication, it is recognised. I mean, it is the thread that runs through all of this. So we talk about a hub and people may naturally think of a hub as being something that people ring up or contact as a reactive source for kind of signposting and referrals, etc. But in all of the discussions we've had so far, it is absolutely recognised that all forms of communication are going to be needed to get the right information out to the people that need that information. And I think when it comes to the subgroup of the Health and Wellbeing Board, if it's approved today, the communication elements, that the communication strategy around that is going to be absolutely key and one of the very first things that the group need to look at. And then just picking up on the point that the leader made earlier on about the recommendations, we had the discussion and you're, I mean, absolutely right. I mean, this needs to be, given the speed that things are moving, it needs to be have kind of full delegated authority really to make a kind of very agile and dynamic response, basically quick decision making. So just really to respond to all of the members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, and your comments are noted. So Councillor Masters, did you want to come back in?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just to ask the question as to what the composition of this delegated board will be, and if we, you know, as and when we approve its formation this morning. Sean,
did you want to come in on that?
It's a very good question, Councillor Masters. I mean, I don't know what the best way forward with this, Gordon, is to look at how these things are normally pulled together.
Yeah, I'm sure we can look at it offline and pull something together and send around to members for approval by email, maybe.
Yeah, I'm guessing we take views and then basically come forward with the proposal offline, but that will obviously need to happen very quickly. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all for your contribution to this really important item. So in terms of the report, we're asked to note the work that's being done and resolve and agree that a subgroup of the Health and Wellbeing Board to be set up to consider the implications further and coordinate the partner response, and also resolve to receive further update reports on the local response. So can I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Doherty, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Vickers. So can I ask all members to indicate their vote for? So I'll look around the room first of all. I can see a show of hands, and then on the screen of members. Thank you so much. And then we need to go to the formal vote in the room. So can I have the members in the room, please? Thank you so much. So this has been agreed. Thank you, Andrew. Noted. Okay, so item 11. So Sean, you're going to present on the Homes for Ukraine report update.
Yes, thanks, Chair. So we're coming up actually basically to the kind of 6-month mark for the local response in terms of the Homes for Ukraine scheme. We just felt it was timely to bring this report to this board to set out basically what the local responses look like. It is now a fairly big scheme within the districts, as you can see, with the details that are on there. And it has involved basically very many council services in that response through a coordinating group, but also basically beyond the council as well, with the support of Green and Common Trust and the voluntary sector as well. You'll also see the report touches on some of the response in terms of health provision. And in fact, actually, we were having discussions only yesterday about health provision in relation to things like COVID vaccinations and everything else, and the new round of vaccination that's coming out. So looking ahead, in fact, this paper is actually slightly out of date. It said that some of the hosts have been with their guests for more than 3 months. Some of them have been with their guests now probably the best part of 5 months, maybe a bit more than that. We're constantly in conversation with hosts and about basically what support is needed going forward. Just 1 or 2 bits as well, just going back to the health issues. So we have run a number of sessions as well, which have been attended by hosts in relation to safeguarding is one of the sessions we ran. We also did a session online about mental health. All of these were well attended with lots of discussion, and there are further sessions planned around issues around trauma and other mental health. And other mental health sessions are also planned. So it's just an update report for the board. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Do we have any questions or comments for Sean? Councillor Doherty?
No, only, I mean, I've been heavily involved with this with Sean, so just to thank him and the team for their work. I think for us, what is going to be an added complexity is actually the cost of living crisis running across this in terms of both capacity of service, but also in terms of we have host families with Ukrainian families who will be going through the same cost of living crisis as us. But so it says it all here. It has been a really good response, and I just wanted to formally thank everybody involved in that, including, of course, the hosts themselves, because they've done a fantastic job. And actually, it's been those lessons learned all the way through that came from COVID that we've been doing again, and actually that really having to act very quickly, which is why I have the confidence in the team service for going ahead.
Thank you for that. Councillor Vickers.
Yes, well, I was just going to sort of acknowledge the wonderful work done by the hosts, and I think it says 95% are still happy with the present arrangements, which is obviously, you know, one expects when you take any strangers into your home, there are problems. So it's sort of testament to the big hearts of in our community and the ability to share their resources in their homes, and also the support that's been given by the council, which has helped them to, you know, give them some resilience. And also there's, you know, there's support in the community that's been provided by other groups, sort of centres where people can go and get advice, and so the social support that's been provided by various individuals, as well as those that are taking people into their own homes. So I think it's a wonderful response. But obviously the problem, obviously the cost of living and finding homes for these people, permanent homes, is going to be a big issue. But I see that there is progress being made on finding jobs, because that was something that was worrying me about, you know, how people were going to support themselves if they weren't able to work. But there was a comment in there about progress in finding work. So I don't know whether there's any more updates on that, but it sounds positive.
Thank you, Councillor Vickers. Sean, did you just want to?
Yeah, I'll just pick up on the last point. So obviously a number of guests have found jobs now, and we have been supporting, as the paper suggests, basically guests through English language lesson provision, obviously, which is part of the route into finding employment for some of the guests. I absolutely echo what you say about the hosts. So, I mean, we have worked very, very closely with the hosts, and our job has been to support them. They are the ones that basically have opened up their homes for people, and we have been very much focused on supporting them, and obviously, as well as basically trying to meet the needs of the guests in terms of integration and you know, and service provision locally, basically. So, I set out in the paper. But going forward, obviously, yes, I mean, obviously we're coming up to 6 months for some of the original hostings. What we do know is a lot of people are going to continue with that. We've already surveyed hosts, but there will be some work that will need to be done to support people through rehosting. The good news is that in West Berkshire, we do have actually still got quite a lot of expressions of interest in terms of rehosting, and that will be our focus going forward.
Really, really helpful to know that. Thank you, Sean. I think it was Andrew next and then Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of very quick points, again, reiterating all the great stuff and works that's been done, and the kindness shown by the folks at West Berks is, again, just fabulous to see. A parish council that I know of has had some issues with things like school transport and things like that, because the actual community wanted to help, and because of the various machinations of local government, they actually aren't allowed to. And I'm wondering, again, with cost of living, I wonder whether almost cost of living needs to talk as almost a subset when we get this committee going of both the Ukrainian project, but also let's not forget our Afghan refugees who are over here, who will be going through exactly the same and possibly even more difficult because of even greater language barriers and cultural barriers. So it might even be worth underlining a special section to see whether specific help can be given, because one of the challenges with West Berkshire is our rurality and the fact that we have got hosts across the patch, which is great on one hand, but of course that can isolate people. So any help that can be given where help with transport costs or school transport or things like this would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. It was the piece about mental health, actually. I work for a charity that supports children and young people who've been bereaved. And we've had conversations about should anybody come to our door, how we could support them. And I think, and I would imagine this is not unusual across other sectors working with people where there's been such trauma. Our social workers are naturally a little bit concerned about how they support somebody that has been through something so traumatic. We are very lucky, I think, in most cases in this country, that we will not have seen some of the atrocities that these young people will have seen as well as the adults. So I think it's just recognising that there may be some concern about whether we have the right training, the right need, the right expertise. And I have heard from host families where they've said, you know, what on earth do I say? How do I deal with this? So I think there is definitely something there about helping support them to have those conversations. And I think in most cases, people are really hoping that they can do good, but they're concerned that they might actually make things worse. I think that's sort of just a natural human feeling that, oh, perhaps I shouldn't say anything because I don't want to make the situation worse. So I just wanted to sort of throw that out there, really. I think, Sean, it looks as if within the report, you're absolutely recognising this sort of thing and working out how we can give the best support to those families. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. I don't know if anyone wants to respond. I'm looking at health colleagues in relation to mental health and the trauma in particular. If not, it's something that we probably need to take offline. Okay.
Chair, if I could just say it is something, as Councillor Stewart said, that we absolutely do recognise, and we have run sessions which basically around this, basically to enable those kind of conversations and things like that to take place. I think it's fair to say that people didn't necessarily know what to expect really from this. Obviously, it all happened very, very fast, and I've spoken to many people with a variety of different experiences, and actually basically trying to get the information out there so that people can basically have those conversations with people and everything else, and we get the right referrals in place is really important. But we do recognise the importance of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any final comments, thoughts on this paper? If not, we will move on to item 12. I do note that we haven't had the fire alarm yet, so whether that's that may have changed, so just to be mindful of that, it still might occur. So item 12, which Jessica Jundu-Evans and Katie Griffiths are going to present on the item of arts and culture, health and wellbeing board projects. So over to your good selves.
Hi, I'm Katie Griffiths. I'm the director of the Corn Exchange, and Gordon is very kindly operating the slides for me. So if we pop onto the next slide. We really wanted to just take the opportunity to talk to the board about the range of programmes that the Corn Exchange is delivering at the moment, and the growth really of that sort of shift that the Corn Exchange has made towards engagement and in health and wellbeing opportunities over the last 5 years, really. Many people will know the Corn Exchange far better as a 400-seat performing arts venue with great live performance, which is lovely, but actually over the last 5 years things have really shifted for us, and this year we're expecting to achieve engagement with over 30,000 engagements through our health and wellbeing programmes over this 12 months, having increased that to 50,000 over the last 2 years during COVID times, even when some of that was obviously online. It's a growing area across the arts as a whole, and I think, I led with the quote by the chair of the Arts Council England, which is that by ensuring everyone in the country has high access to high quality creative and cultural activities, they will in turn lead happier and healthier lives, which absolutely chimes with the joint strategy that we've got around a happier and healthy West Berkshire, and the health and wellbeing strategy that we've got. Listening to the conversation today, we've been thinking about how we can support the mental health of people, how we can support people as they go into the cost of living crisis. And what's really starting to happen is that the evidence is starting to arrive that engaging with arts and culture is able to help make a difference in people's lives and really have an impact in improving those mental health outcomes for our community. So it felt like now was a sort of a really opportune moment to talk about that. And I will, if we pop onto the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about some of the programmes that we deliver. We've got a whole range of different programmes from we have a regular programme of courses and classes that we run within our youth, within our learning centre, which is things like youth theatre and art classes and Pilates sessions and all sorts of kind of regular classes, which do have a paid for fee. They are also obviously bursary places for those where that's needed. That's certainly something that we've been working with the Ukrainian communities and we've also been delivering a funded project with the Afghan refugees and engaging with those. But what we then come on to here with the next kind of set of programs are the programs that we're running that are funded, and that funding comes from a range of sources. The first program talking about Becoming Us is being funded by the Health and Wellbeing Board, and that's a project that we started sort of supporting babies and children in the first 2 years of those children's lives as they came out through the impact of COVID, what we were going to be able to do to make sure we were supporting those families to really integrate their new babies. And we've been working with 7 families, all referred through social services. That's the first cohort. The second cohort will be coming online at the beginning of next year, working with Homestarts. So these are programs that you will sort of see the themes. I won't read through everything, but the themes as we go through are that we tend to work in partnership on these programs. We tend to be going out externally for funding. That funding is sometimes coming through from the local authority, through something like the Links to Thrive project that I'll talk about a bit more is funded through Surviving to Thriving, which is that same model of West Berks Council funding alongside Greenham Trust funding, really making a difference in the community. But we also go out to sort of nationally based funders. So our Ageing Creatively programme, if we pop onto the next slide, you'll be able to see a little bit about that. I was going, Gordon, could we pop on the next slide? Ah, thank you, it's moved. Oh, thank you. Sorry, it was slower on the screen. The Ageing Creatively programme is funded by National Lottery Reaching Communities. So that's national funding from people playing the lottery that then allows us to deliver a range of programmes that we work with, usually up to around 5,000 people each year who are over the ages of 55. And that's a programme that for the majority of those people, that programme is completely free to access. It's out there, it's across the district, it's working in those rural locations, it's also working in care homes, really working in partnership with people to make sure that what we're doing is connecting and reducing the isolation that those people experience. What we've really found is that evaluating the work that we do and deliver is really critical in terms of being able to ensure that we're able to demonstrate the impact of the work that we do. So we've got a whole range of programs, and those of you who are able to see the screen, looking at the one that we're on at the moment, it's an example of the different types of programs and the different ways in which arts and culture can find a way to improve the benefits of health and wellbeing impacts for our local community. I will pop on to the next slide now, which was just an opportunity particularly to talk to the group here about the Links to Thrive project that we're delivering at the moment. We've just come to the end of the pilot phase of Links to Thrive, which is an Arts on Prescription programme that we work across the district, working in connection with the different primary care networks. We've worked with both across the A34 and the Kennet PCN, and also West Berkshire Rural and the Reading West PCN. We're connected in now with the social prescribers from all of those different GP surgeries. And over the 7 months that this programme has been delivering work, we've had 917 engagements with people who have been prescribed attendance at one of our courses, which include things like singing for recovery, art for wellbeing, and creative art journaling, which are all designed to support people to improve their mental health and to reduce isolation and loneliness, and to really start to try and make a difference in their lives. We're about to move into the phase 1 programme, but the critical thing for us at the moment is that what we're needing to try and ensure is that we can secure funding for this programme as we move forward. With the funding of the programme is all delivered and set in place through until March of next year. If we pop onto the next slide, I'll be able to give you just a little bit of an example. Oh, it's really tiny, I'm sorry. This was to kind of try and provide a bit of an overview of the types of sessions that we're running, the locations that they're being run in, the way in which we're working. So I will put through working with partners. We're working, one of the sessions is delivered at West Berkshire Museum, one of the sessions is delivered at the Watermill Theatre, some of the sessions are delivered in the Village Hall in Pangbourne, some of the sessions are delivered over in Thatcham, some of them are delivered actually in the Corn Exchange itself. So this isn't about a programme programme of work that takes place in the Corn Exchange. This is about going out and really making sure that we're working in locations that are really close to the GP surgeries, where we're finding that in order to access those most vulnerable in the community, we need to make it really easy for them to be able to engage and attend with us. We've got, and the classes go every day of the week, and all sorts of different things. And the types of courses that we're running are things called, there's a creative arts club, there's an art for wellbeing course, which is, as I say, being run at the museum, which is all about using history as an impetus for and history and heritage as an impetus for the work that they're doing. We have a creative art journaling course, whereby we're really making sure that people are using art to really try and think about where they're headed and how they can use the journey that they've been on to try and improve how they're feeling. And actually in the next session, we've run that session very successfully with adults, but from October time, we're going to be running that at the Waterside Centre, but with young people who we're going to be delivering that programme with. If I move on to the next slide, which again is really small. I'm sure this will be circulated around with papers thereafter. But I suppose this was really just to try and give a bit of a sense of the programme and how quickly we've been able to get it off the ground with the support of the partners we've been working with. We received the funding for it this time last year, and there was a really crucial pilot sort of consultation phase, whereby it was about building the relationships with the GP surgeries, with the social prescribers, making sure that we got the communications in place in order to be able to reach the people who were going to be able to benefit from these programmes, alongside the formation of the steering group, which is one of the reasons in particular that we're here to talk to you about this today. Is that the steering group is made up of a range of people. In fact, I will pop onto the next slide, which tells you a bit about the steering group. A range of people from across the community, from West Berks Council staff through to GPs, through to social prescribers, teams from the Corn Exchange, and our evaluator, really looking at what we can do with this programme to ensure that we're able to continue to deliver this work for our local community in future. The steering group meet once every couple of months and receive all the feedback on what's going on. And it's been through the creation of this group as we've been really sort of structured around how we can make sure that we're able to expand and continue to deliver the programme, because it's about being able to ramp it up and how we're able to do and achieve that at scale so that we can increase the impact. And making sure that the work that we're doing is being shared and people do know about it. I've flagged through on here that we've got things, we've got having started originally with a pilot phase, delivering the programmes all ourselves. As I said, what we're starting to work now is with partner venues, but then it's our team who then deliver the training for the practitioners. We've had to develop a core pool of volunteers to be able to support the programme, because there's a lot of additional need within the cohort of participants who are taking part. We've got a case study that's going to be being shared and delivered with the National Academy of Social Prescribing, who are really interested in the work that we're doing and the way in which that can be used to demonstrate benefits both locally and more nationally widely as part of that kind of evidence base for arts on prescription. And the steering group, which I will ask for the next slide, please, Gordon, thank you. Here kind of shows you that the makeup of the steering group, because across the board there's a real sense that there's a huge opportunity and real potential to be able to use these opportunities to meet the needs of the community that we've been talking about today. As we pop onto the next slide, I obviously won't read through this, but what we've got here is a very particular case study that's been provided to us by one of our social prescribers. And this is about a particular patient who's been working with us over a number of different projects and programmes, who I suppose that the reason for including this is that it's all about how we've had to really individualize the approach that we've taken with the people that we're working with. This is someone who doesn't attend the sessions in person. They attend the sessions via Zoom because of challenges they have in terms of leaving their home. But that still means that we still want to try and find that way to include them and find the way to benefit. And it ends with explaining that this person who had not been in a position to take part or, you know, visit and take part in community and social activities, ended up taking part and attending in person a family wedding. And the only thing that the family felt had changed in their lives during this period of time was their involvement in the classes and in the sessions that had been running as part of Links to Thrive. If we pop on to the next slide, I was just to give you that sense of the impact. We're in the process, we're working with Steve Matthews, an external evaluator on the programme, who was brought in to really ensure we've got a rigorous set of data. We're looking at trying to ensure that we can demonstrate the value for money of the programme, that we can make sure that we're able to demonstrate that the cost will reduce in time, the burden on the NHS, that we're able to manage and assess the change impact that we're having for the people who are taking part. And I think it's, you know, there's some really interesting information coming out of that initial sort of evaluation of the programme, which, as well as, you know, the overall number of engagements, working with 168 different participants over the course of the last 7 months, with referrals from across 10 different social prescribers. And that evaluation data is showing at the moment that it's demonstrating, it's not in the report, but I would really like to be able to share this with you in future, that we're able to make, that the programme will make a significant contribution to community health and wellbeing if able to operate at a greater scale, that it can play an important role in helping to overcome social isolation, that the evaluation data suggests that the participants are finding it's addressing their particular health and wellbeing needs. And also that it has the ability to make a significant contribution to the health and wellbeing theme within the West Berks strategy, and the 3 areas around developing partnerships and effective programmes, and increasing access to culture and heritage for rural and urban communities, as well as children and young people. So if we pop onto that next slide, which is really just the future and part of the reason to bring this to you today, was that we're really hoping to increase sort of closer dialogue between the programme and the broad range of work that we do, and what's going on with the Health and Wellbeing Board. The steering group, as we look to make sure that we can really secure funding for the future of the programme, we'd really like to ask if we could have a champion from the Health and Wellbeing Board to join us on the steering group. And we're really excited to be able to provide in future with you, as a paper or a presentation, all the details and the final evaluation of the programme of work, to be able to share that insight with you all. Thank you.
So thank you, Katie. I'm going to move to questions and comments. Any thoughts, comments to Katie? So I think we have Councillor Vickers and then Heike.
Thank you for that. I think it's a very, very important area, really, as regards the health and wellbeing of our population. Sadly, the arts are often seen as a luxury, sort of nice to have, but I know so many individuals that, particularly singing and dancing, is something that really sort of keeps them going, when relieves their stress. So I think this is very important, and it will be unfortunate if, through lack of funding, the programme has to be cut back. I see the use of volunteers is on there, and obviously that's a way of hopefully cutting costs. I mean, I know a lot of people who would happily give their time to support a programme like this. I
As regards a champion, I wondered whether there might be somebody in the council outside of this Health and Wellbeing Board with some expertise and involvement that might be more appropriate than a member, whether that might be appropriate. And particularly, I mean, it sounds as though you're looking mainly at help with fundraising rather than just enthusiasm. And my other comment was, I visited Two Saints recently, and they have a space where they're trying to, for people to sort of go to pursue arts and crafts and things like that, but they lack support and volunteers for that. So I think that's probably on the edge of what the Corn Exchange do, but maybe that is something to at least consider, that there are groups that might not come and engage with your run-of-the-mill sessions that possibly would benefit from this sort of support and help as well.
Thank you for that, Councillor Vickers. Micah?
Katie, I think it's absolutely fabulous work that you guys have been doing. Honestly, I'd be fully supportive of something like this. I think it's great partnership working. You know, PCN's relatively new on the block, and engaging with them, engaging with social prescriber. I love the idea of demedicalizing, right? There's not a tablet for everything, and this shows that the power of art and culture. You read the testimonies of people where it has actually helped their anxiety. So it's a proven, I can do more, I can get out of my house. It's not my medication is working. I think this is fabulous. And there's obviously proof of this post-stroke as well, especially the singing element, getting some neural activity. And yeah, so I think it's wonderful.
Thank you for that. Andrew?
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate how amazing this programme is, especially if you bear in mind the challenges we've had with COVID and things like this. And I think, while it's great to see, you know, health absolutely getting on board, again, this is a real opportunity for other partners to get involved. You know, certainly public health runs sorts of programmes not dissimilar, and perhaps there should be conversations about jointly doing things with public health. Certainly adult social care, where perhaps there isn't an obvious solution from a sort of adult social care perspective, but actually guiding, signposting, getting people through. And, you know, if you ever listen to Michael Mosley talking about stuff, there is so much scientific evidence of the help this is. You know, I'd really love to see the ICB getting behind this and seeing whether or not we can sort of roll this sort of program out as just, you know, everything does not have to come out of a blister pack. You know, it's scientifically proven. Let's use the science to increase the funding and make sure programs like this thrive and the people get the benefit. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. So, as a member of the Surviving to Thriving panel, I'm really thrilled to see how you guys have taken this funding that you secured with an excellent bid, I do recall, and to see the testimonials that you have and the evidence. I think Councillor Vickers was saying about arts and culture often being seen as a luxury, but actually, when you have evidence that a practical application actually benefits an individual, and not just one individual, clearly many, I think it's amazing. Katie, I'd like to talk to you offline, and I don't know, Chairman, whether this is okay. I haven't heard anybody else come forward and volunteer as yet to be the champion that Katie's looking for. I would like to talk to Katie about what the steering group is looking for from a champion, because I might be interested if we think that fits. I have a fundraising role in my day job, not in this arena, but it may be of some use. But what I need to understand is how much time and what you need from that role before I would commit, because I don't want to say yes and then I can't give you what you need. So, Chairman, I know that sort of messes up your let's vote on this, that and the other for today, unless somebody else is sitting there and thinking, actually, I'd like to be the champion.
Councillor Stewart, why don't we put that as part of the vote, that you are the nominated champion, and see how the members that. Maybe that's a suggestion how we do it, just to make sure there isn't any other interested parties in being that member. Thank you for that.
Okay, and if we could include that, it is based on me having a conversation with Katie to make sure that my commitment, that their needs are all met. I think let's begin that way, if that's all right with Katie.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Kamal Bayer. We can't hear you. No, we still can't hear you. You're going to put it in the chat? Okay, thank you. We'll pick it up that way. Any other comments, thoughts, reflections before we move on to the recommendations? Yes.
If it's okay by Katie, I just wanted to say, just in response to Councillor Stewart there, I mean, there's probably a number of things that a representative on the steering group could bring, but what would be really helpful is, we probably all know in the room how well documented things like singing for dementia and dancing for Parkinson's and those things, the benefits of those interventions, but actually the range of creative interventions you can have and the impacts on health and well-being are much greater than those that we see documented all the time. And I suppose that's what we're finding through these programmes, and at the very least help and support to disseminate those findings as and when our impact reports come through would be great. It's the reason we're putting so much time and effort and funding into making sure they're properly evaluated, because there is much further reaching benefits than those that we see on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so let's move to the recommendations. So the first one, a champion to be secured from the Health and Wellbeing Board to work with the Links to Thrive steering group. So it was Councillor Councillor Stewart, who has nominated herself in principle, but obviously there needs to be further conversations. So should we take that first of all as, oh no, so no votes required on this report, actually.
I wasn't sure whether there's a vote required on this one. It's, I think there's a set of principles. You're looking for long-term funding support. Obviously, we can't provide that at the moment. And, you know, I think if we were to have a vote, if we're happy for Councillor Stewart to be the representative, might be a way forward if somebody wants to.
Thank you. Okay, so so it looks like Councillor Stewart has nominated herself pending the provisos that have already been or will be noted. Obviously, this board wouldn't make the decisions about the funding, but there will need to be some offline conversations. The participation that we've heard so far has been about the value of having this type of almost like an arts therapy type approach. Sorry, Rick, did you want to come in?
Only to, given the lack of other volunteers, to formally propose Councillor Stewart as our representative.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. And then for the Health and Wellbeing Board to work with the Corn Exchange to embed kind of partnerships and wellbeing and maximise the opportunities. And I think being here today and actually sharing the information about the service offer that you provide and the impact to a whole range of residents in terms of prevention as well as recovery, I'm sure those members that are here today will take that back to their organisations and share that information. So if that is all, we can move on to the next item. Thank you for coming here today and presenting information about your service. So we're now moving on to item 13, and Zakaya is going to present the item around the Health and Wellbeing Board conference that is being proposed. So Zakaya, over to you.
Thank you, Belinda, and thank you, board members. Again, the paper presented is fairly self contained. It sort of describes really some initial discussions, recognising that the Health and Wellbeing Conference is an annual conference, usually held in January. We were very aware that the timeframe has been sort of quite tight this year. A discussion happened at the steering group to really start to initiate some of the themes that may be used for the conference and the format and timing of the conference. You'll see through the paper that we have sort of articulated the discussion that happened at the steering group, and I'm very happy to, again, receive from board members other discussions that may contribute to this. But to start off with, there was a discussion about the way that the conference would be held. Last year, given that we were tackling COVID, it was held virtually. And one of the benefits of that is that there was a greater representation and more diverse representation, because people could jump into Zoom or sort of come out and sort of manage their day-to-day working as well. That's balanced with the fact that many people were really so keen that a physical meeting would enable more networking and opportunities to work together in a better way. We recognise that January tends to be the month when flu is quite rife, and we're already sort of hearing around the cases of COVID potentially could be increasing around October. Other proposals included some really great ideas around joint working, particularly with the Parish Council Conference and also the Voluntary Sector Information days as well. And I think they were some really interesting ideas for future developments, but I do wonder about the short time frame, whether that's something that can be managed on this occasion for January 2023. In terms of the themes, you won't be surprised, and I think there's a sort of a considerable theme sort of coming through this Health and Wellbeing Board around the impact of the increase in cost of living. And I think that was really reflected again in the steering group discussion, and I'm sure will be reflected in our discussion here. And the focus has been around the impact, particularly around mental health, particularly around sort of substance misuse, which quite often we think it tends to be a response to stress of living. And so it is something that we're sort of particularly concerned about. And as you will have had presented in previous meetings, a key theme for the Directors of Public Health annual report was around food poverty, which again is at the core of much of what we're dealing with the impact of the increase in cost of living. So the proposal has been around the recommendation has been holding a virtual conference, a half day, but to take forward suggestions of working with partners, with health, with the voluntary sector, and with parish councils at a future meeting when we have more time to develop those areas, and to focus on the themes that have been proposed as the conference themes to run through around extending the cost of living impact, particularly around the impact on mental health, particularly around food poverty, and in particular around potentially sort of how that might impact on substance use, that we can support the communities and residents. I'll stop speaking there, and perhaps now's a good time to sort of just receive comments and comments at this point.
It's okay. I can see Andy Sharp and then Sean Murphy.
Thanks for the report, Zakia. I guess it's just a little bit disappointing that we're going for a virtual conference from my point of view. I understand the points you made about the timing, but a hybrid, it's on. And just very quiet, I'll speak up. A hybrid option would perhaps cover some of the issues you talked about, but also ensure that more people can participate, particularly as we're talking about one of the themes being around deterioration in mental health. We know that social isolation is one of the things that can contribute to that. So I just wonder whether there's any way we could think about that again, particularly if there is some flexibility around the timing maybe to think about when the conference could take place.
Did you want to respond back, Zakia?
Very happy to receive that as a comment and feedback. I think at this point in time, Andy, you'll be aware that I'm not necessarily too sure how the previous conferences have been organised, but I think it's a really valid point. I'm very happy to sort of take that as a suggested way forward. I wonder whether perhaps even the previously sort of recommended hub that's looking at cost of living might be a really sort of strong place where we can get some advice and contribution to that way of working.
Okay, Sean?
That feeds into the point I was going to make, Chair, just to say that obviously, I support the proposal in terms of the themes, but we do need to make sure that it's joined up with the work of the subgroup that was agreed at an earlier item of this board.
I welcome that, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Councillor Vickers?
Thank you. I think Andy was suggesting that hybrid might be something to consider. Yeah, I mean, I agree really, because I can see all the reasons for possibly sticking to virtual. Obviously, we've sadly got concerns about COVID. There is a sort of, obviously, there is an element where there's a greater inclusion of members of the public that might not make a live meeting, but there's so much to be gained for those that can come to actually networking with people and talking to people. You don't get the same interaction as just looking at, sort of people on the screen, and when you break up into groups. So I think there's an element missing there. And also a live conference means that you can invite people who are groups that are connected with the theme that you're pursuing to your conference to sort of talk about, I think in the past we've had the lobby with groups and bringing some materials, related to what the conference is about. So, being able to meet practitioners that are engaged in their fields is important, and learning more about them sort of outside the actual sort of discussions about the subject. Obviously, cost of living, I think, is ideal in this day and age, and we could have the food bank there telling us more about them. We could have lots of other organisations that are working with people. So I think a live conference, partially live conference, would be good to consider. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vickers. So, right, so I think, so you've heard really about having a radio challenge put to you, Sakir, around having a hybrid conference. Obviously, we're conscious of the timescale, so we probably just need to think about how that is managed and how this group are actually informed of what those plans look like, maybe before, maybe some briefing that goes out to members before the December Health and Wellbeing Board. Jessica, did you want to come in?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to mention that we held a very successful hybrid symposium earlier this year up at our 101 space on Green and Park, and we'd be very happy to have some conversations about that as a possible venue, if that's helpful.
Very helpful. I'm sure Sakira would be pleased to hear about that and how that model worked. So the board is asked to approve the option of a virtual conference, but I think what we're saying is we'd actually like to see a hybrid, more of a hybrid approach to that. So we'll go through that. That the theme should be focused around the increase in cost of living, mental health, substance misuse, and we need to be linking in with the joint hub that Councillor Doherty has announced today in the meeting, and agree that options be explored for a combined event with the District Parish Council in 2023, and for a joint event with wider partners in 2024. So. Let me go for, I need a proposer. Do I have a...
Apologies, Belinda. Can I just clarify? There were, it would also include the food poverty theme from the Directors of Public Health annual report, and also the Parish Council conference would be for 2024.
Thank you for that clarification. So Councillor Doherty has proposed. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Vickers. So all members, let me look around the room first in terms of an indicative vote on the proposals. Okay, and let me just check on screen. Okay, did I have any abstentions? I'm not sure. Yeah, Andrew Sharpen. Yeah. And then formal vote in the room. Thank you so much. Okay. So do you have what you need, Sakaya, to take this?
I do, and thank you very much for the contributions. They've been very helpful.
at all. So I believe you're also going to be taking us through item 14, which is an update to the Health and Wellbeing Board delivery plan. Can I ask that you highlight the key issues and any points of escalation? I'm just very conscious of time.
Yes, of course. Again, this is another paper that has all the information ready and present for you. I should just particularly make an apology to you, Belinda, because I know you have provided some additional information that I didn't manage to capture in for Q1, and also Adrian has also contributed for a contribution that we haven't put into Q1. This is the first time that there has been a quarterly update. We intend to bring this delivery plan update to the Health and Wellbeing Board. In the next iteration, what I'm hoping is that we will be using the new programme management tool that the council are using in order to project and performance manage our delivery plan going forwards. For now, we've used the table as is, and you will see that there has been progress, which is really heartening, on programmes of work that the delivery plan has highlighted. I think important highlights are that some of there has been quite considerable transition from when the delivery plan, which was initially a theme at the last conference, was brought together. There has been quite a considerable change of workforce during that time. So those who are involved in delivering the delivery plan and my sort of involvement has been in transition. But I'm really pleased that this has given us an opportunity to really work with the subgroups of the Health and Wellbeing Board. And going forwards, I think in combination with redrafting the terms of reference of the subgroups, recognise that some subgroups will be new, as we've discussed in this meeting, will really offer us the opportunity to identify and refine the ownership to who are accountable and responsible for delivering these programmes of work. I think the other group that has had a considerable change, as Belinda will know, is the health to partnerships. And I think this has given us an opportunity to really work very clearly and closely with how is it that the delivery plan as is, which will help the Health and Wellbeing Board strategy to be delivered across the partnerships in West Berkshire, and be very clear what actions are needed and by whom. So I'll stop speaking there. Again, happy to receive comments.
Any comments? No. Okay, thank you, Sakir. Thank you for the update on the report, and we look forward to Q2 update, which I think will have a lot more comprehensive detail within it and action owners now that these intricacies have been ironed out. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So I think we're on item 15. So members' questions. Gordon, have we had any questions?
No, we haven't had any members' questions at all. Thank you.
Okay. And then item 15, the Health and Wellbeing Board forward plan. So draw your attention to that. So are there any items that we need to add or omit on this current forward plan, which goes up to the end of the next financial year, or just within?
Chair, I was going to propose that we got a report back to the board from the new subgroup.
Very good idea. Any other items? Rick?
From the conversation we've just had, I guess you want to progress the conference proposal.
Yes. Okay. And I was just checking to see if there was anything specifically from an ICB perspective, as I was going to make the comment that you may well be aware that the Chief Executive of the ICB, Dr. James Kent, has moved on to be part of the national team, and the Chief Medical Officer, Rachel Decoe, is currently the acting Chief Executive. So just wanted to just clarify that as well in terms of changes within health. I think we had Councillor Bowick.
Thank you, Belinda. Yeah, referring to the Health Watch report on CAMS, essentially. I look forward to that report to see how we're doing. I don't think we're giving enough attention to the delivery of CAM services to our children and young people. You know, I mean, this will be 2 meetings since the report before we have any update, and I think we need to have more regular updates and clearer view of the actions that are being taken.
Thank you for that. So is that something you'd like to see within December's meeting, along with the Health Watch report, an update on CAM services? I appreciate it's a very challenged area.
Yes, I'd like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gordon, if you can note that. Andrew?
Yeah, I'd like to agree with Councillor Brooke on that, but I was actually raising another point. We've been incredibly challenged as an organisation over the last 4 or 5 months with long-term sickness and recruitment issues. So I'm going to suggest we take the Voice of Disability off the programme for a moment, and we work out offline when we can potentially bring that back. Although I wonder whether we are about to complete our asylum report from the hotels in West Berkshire, whether that might be something we could drop in for discussion, and again bearing in mind the cost of living discussions we've had and the implications this is just something that's going to keep going on, stretching services, etc., etc., etc. And the initial sort of key findings are a tad worrying in terms of mental health issues. So I wonder whether we could replace that with the asylum report in December, and then come back to Voice of Disability once we've talked it through with public health colleagues a little bit further.
I think that sounds sensible. So Gordon, if we can fit that on the agenda as well, a CAMS update, that would be, I think, helpful. Councillor Stewart.
I'm sure Gordon has already clocked this from what we were talking about earlier, but just to the social determinants of mental health financial support, if we can do an interim update in December, and Adrian Barker has confirmed that he's happy to do that, so I volunteered him, and he's been watching the Health and Wellbeing Board meeting, and he said that's fine.
Thank you, that is noted. Andy Sharp.
We're currently in the process of producing at quite pace the ICP strategy, and one of the things that has come up during the conversation around the development of some priorities around that is the links to health and wellbeing strategy for each local area. So I was wondering if it was possible for us to have an item on a future board meeting to discuss how we're going to link in with that strategy and the development of it.
That sounds like a really timely piece of work, and I suppose to add also that Sarah Webster is the incoming Managing Director for Berkshire West, who starts on Monday, so I'm sure that she would be here to present that item. So thank you, Andy, very, very timely. Any other comments, thoughts in terms of the forward plan? No? Okay. So future meeting dates, so you should have all of those in your diary. Now, I do know that there was a concern about, and it's on the forward plan, we've got a meeting scheduled for the 20th of April, and that's because the meeting that was programmed in for the 25th of May is the day of the annual meeting of the council. So that's why we needed to actually bring the meeting forward to the 20th of April. Is there any immediate concern about that date, the 20th of April? Does it clash with something which, you know, a number of you will need to attend? If not, we will go with that date. So thank you. So thank you, everybody, for your very lively. Sorry, Councillor Stewart.
Right, I literally just popped it up. Belinda, I just wanted to say thank you so much for chairing today. I know that stepping into the shoes of Councillor Bridgman is never an easy thing to do, particularly with a beast of an agenda, with so many participants and the hybrid thing. And Gordon, I want to say thank you to you as well for being our prompt when we, you know, hands up, hands down, who is it? It's a bit like the okey cokey, isn't it? But yes, Belinda, thank you so much for doing that on behalf of Graham today.
at all. It was absolutely a hard act to follow, but at least I have, you know, I had that model, if you like, which has supported me. Carmel, did you want to come in? No. No. Okay, so thank you everyone for your attendance, your participation and your very lively conversations and thoughtful reflections. We will now close the meeting. So thank you, Tom. We will close the meeting.